For generations, we have pointed our telescopes toward the sky not only in search of new worlds or distant echoes, but in pursuit of fractures in the cosmic order. Rare moments when the universe appears to break its own laws, and that moment may have arrived. The James Webb Space Telescope may have encountered something that defies every expectation. What began as the routine tracking of the third interstellar object ever identified in our solar system, 3I Atlas, quickly evolved into a far deeper, more unsettling, and potentially transformative enigma. Because in the dark, frozen regions beyond the orbit of Mars, Webb recorded something that simply does not fit. It was not merely reflected radiation. It was a luminous pattern that suggested artificiality, a glow that does not behave like that of any known comet or asteroid, a signature that matches no established model of reflection or refraction. And now, astronomers and astrophysicists are confronting a question that echoes with unease. What exactly is 3I Atlas? Stay with us as we explore the data that has reignited humanity's oldest and most disturbing question. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Are we alone? 3I Atlas was initially detected as an almost imperceptible point at the edge of the solar system, moving along a trajectory that no object originating here could sustain. Its orbit made it clear this was an interstellar visitor, formed beyond the sun's gravitational influence, hurled across the galaxy by forces still unknown, now silently passing through our cosmic neighborhood. At first, it was treated as just another astronomical curiosity, similar to its predecessors, Oumuamua and Borisov. However, from the earliest observations, something was off. Unlike most objects arriving from outside the solar system, 3I Atlas displayed an unusual brightness, and not in a way that was easily explained. Its magnitude did not align with its estimated size or composition. It shimmered with suspicious regularity. Its luminosity did not fade as predicted, nor did it exhibit the characteristic outbursts of gas or dust release. Traditional comets tend to intensify in brightness as ice sublimates, yet this one maintained an intriguing stability, as if an internal source were sustaining that emission. Observatories around the world aimed their instruments at it, and Webb, with its extraordinary ability to analyze infrared light with unprecedented precision, was called upon to investigate further. What its sensors captured completely changed the landscape. The James Webb Space Telescope, positioned approximately 1 million miles, 1.6 million kilometers, from Earth at the L2 Lagrange point, was designed to reveal the invisible, pierce stellar glare, and expose hidden structures in the depths of space. Its analysis of 3I Atlas was expected to dispel existing doubts. Instead, it amplified them. The telescope's instruments detected a centralized thermal emission that did not correspond to any natural reflection of sunlight. Normally, a comet shines due to the sun's rays reflecting off dust and ice. But 3I Atlas displayed an internal thermal signature, something radiating from the core outward. It was not scattered light, it was emitted light. Thermal mapping revealed a pattern that followed no known distribution curve of natural objects. It pulsed faintly, irregularly, and, most unsettling of all, seemed to cycle at intervals. That rhythm, repeating subtly, suggested not randomness, but design. Some scientists at NASA and the European Space Agency proposed exotic explanations: radioactive decay, subsurface friction, unusual isotopes. But as more data arrived, those theories collapsed. The only consistent explanation remaining was precisely the one no one wanted to put into writing. This object may be powered by some form of energy. As data from Webb, Hubble, and ground-based observatories accumulated, a profile of 3I Atlas began to emerge. And it did not resemble any known celestial body. Its trajectory was too precise to be chaotic. as if it were choosing its path, subtly adjusting course while crossing gravitational fields. Its rotation was abnormally stable, with motion that defied standard inertial drift. And the absence of a cometary tail, even while passing under intense solar radiation, suggested a shell or coating, perhaps something shielding it from the heat. Then came the most controversial discovery. The albedo, or surface reflectivity, was measured as nearly perfect in certain regions, approaching that of polished metal. Not rock, not ice, not dust, metal. The implication struck the astronomical community like a shock wave. If it was metallic, structured, and emitting energy, then we were no longer observing a natural object. We were observing technology. Suddenly, the word probe began to be whispered in hallways. Beacon, craft, even artifact. The idea that it might be a spacecraft was no longer confined to conspiracy forums. It was now circulating quietly in institutional emails, behind encrypted firewalls. Perhaps the most compelling evidence was not the thermal emissions, nor the trajectory, nor the strange metallic signature. It was the light. Photometric analysis revealed something disturbing. The light coming from 3I Atlas was concentrated within a narrow spectral band. In other words, it was not a broad, natural reflection of sunlight, but a controlled emission of specific wavelengths. That is precisely what we do with LED arrays, laser communication systems, and spacecraft signaling beacons. Moreover, that band included frequencies often used in communication and guidance systems on Earth. And more, the intensity of the light appeared to respond, albeit subtly, to solar radiation, as if some onboard system were adjusting it in real time. It flickered not at random, but with a peculiar intermittent pulse. Astronomers processed the data using models of known signals. The result was inconclusive, but not irrelevant. Some claimed the pulses resembled binary sequences. Others suggested it could be a rotating energy source, but the conclusion was unavoidable. This was not a passive object, it was doing something deliberate, and we were watching in real time. As the data streamed in, a team of astrophysicists from MIT and Harvard conducted an in-depth analysis of the electromagnetic signals coming from 3I Atlas. At first glance, the frequencies appeared random, mere noise scattered across the spectrum. But when they applied Fourier transforms to isolate cyclical patterns, something emerged. Within the static, buried like a whisper beneath the chaos, there was a structured, repetitive pulse, too precise to be natural. It was not standard binary nor typical human technological modulation, yet it bore the unmistakable mark of intentional encoding. Some speculated it could be a beacon, a repeating transmission intended for receivers not of terrestrial origin. Others theorized it might be telemetry, a steady stream of data being sent back to wherever this object originated. The unsettling part was this: whatever the message was, it had not changed since Webb first detected it. It was as if 3I Atlas was not trying to speak to us, but to something else. And perhaps that something had already heard it. News of the discovery spread rapidly through the highest levels of scientific and defense institutions. A confidential report, distributed internally at NASA and later leaked to an unidentified journalist, revealed that authorities were already coordinating with global space agencies to determine whether 3I Atlas posed any threat. Some scientists argued it was benign, an ancient probe, perhaps centuries old, following a pre-programmed route among the stars. Others were less optimistic. They raised questions no one could answer. If it is transmitting, who is receiving? If it emits light, does it also possess propulsion? If it is here by design, why now? The report mentioned the possibility, however remote, that 3I Atlas was not merely passing through but observing, tracking planetary alignments, electromagnetic fields, or even advanced civilizations. That possibility ignited a silent panic behind the scenes, because if this object is not alone, then something else could be on its way, something that sent it. Further investigations into 3I Atlas's luminosity led to a revolutionary hypothesis: that the object was not merely emitting energy, it was harvesting energy. The way its luminous emission varied with proximity to the sun, combined with the apparent absence of chemical reactions, supported the idea that it could be using a solar collection or photonic absorption system embedded beneath its surface. Loeb and a group of theorists postulated that the dust clouds surrounding the object might serve a dual function, both camouflaging its artificial structure and acting as a medium for absorbing solar radiation. If this is true, it would mean that 3I Atlas is a self-sustaining craft, designed to travel indefinitely through deep space, refueling itself as it moves from star to star. This concept aligns with known theoretical models of interstellar probes. Machines capable of remaining dormant for centuries, activating only upon reaching a stellar system worthy of investigation. And if our solar system triggered that activation, then the message was received. As international space agencies urgently sought answers, one truth became increasingly clear: we are not prepared. Despite decades of speculation about extraterrestrial contact, our systems, political, scientific, and philosophical, are entirely unprepared to process what 3I Atlas may represent. No official statement had been made, but leaked internal documents from agencies in France, Japan, and Brazil pointed to similar conclusions. This object may not be merely an anomaly, but a first encounter unfolding in slow motion. And contrary to what Hollywood taught us, there was no landing, no sudden appearance in the sky, no immediate response. Only data, only light, only silence. Webb continues to observe the object every day, and yet every answer it delivers seems to raise two more questions. If this is contact, then it is contact on their terms, not ours. Silent, distant, unsettling. And perhaps that is the most terrifying part of all, because what we may be witnessing is not an invitation, it may be surveillance, and perhaps we have already been seen. Just when astronomers believed 3I Atlas had stabilized into a predictable trajectory, something unexpected happened. Its luminosity increased dramatically. It was not a gradual growth caused by proximity to the sun. It was a sudden flare. Captured in real time by the James Webb Space Telescope and confirmed by multiple ground-based observatories, the object's brightness increased by nearly 40% in less than 2 minutes, then stabilized at a new, higher level. No natural explanation fit the data. There was no sign of interaction with solar wind, no impact event, no fragmentary disintegration. It was as if someone, or something, had flipped a switch. The flare was not only visible, it brought with it a shift in the object's thermal signature, as if systems had been activated. Theorists proposed a disturbing possibility. The object may have entered a wake phase, triggered either by proximity to our star or by our own observations. And if that flare was intentional, then it was meant to be seen. Shortly after the anomalous brightening, orbital calculations from multiple space agencies detected something else. 3I Atlas was no longer following its projected trajectory exactly. It had shifted slightly, subtly but measurably. Gravity alone did not explain the alteration. Not even solar radiation pressure, often cited to justify minor course changes in lightweight objects, was sufficient. The change was deliberate, and even more unsettling was the direction of the new trajectory, deeper into the solar system, with an adjusted inclination bringing it closer to the plane of Earth's orbit. The object was no longer merely passing through. It had, in effect, changed lanes. Some scientists urged caution, classifying the phenomenon as a gravitational anomaly, but others viewed the deviation as a maneuver, a subtle course correction no comet or rock has ever performed. And if 3i Atlas is capable of propulsion or navigation, even in a limited capacity, then we are no longer observing a relic. We are watching a craft in motion, a craft with intent. As the object entered the range of spectroscopic instruments aboard Webb and Hubble, scientists began detecting elements and compounds that raised new alarms. Traces of highly reflective alloys, rare earth elements, and, most shockingly, spectral absorption lines resembling compounds never cataloged in our periodic table were identified. These are not materials found in a frozen block of interstellar rock. They were engineered, or at the very least synthesized under conditions not known to exist naturally. One spectral profile did not correspond to any known chemical process, but resembled theoretical compounds proposed in quantum materials laboratories, substances believed to exist only under the influence of intense magnetic fields, or quantum confinement. This discovery implied two possibilities: an inconceivable age, suggesting the object predates human civilization by millennia, or a highly advanced recent fabrication by a civilization far beyond our own. The nature of the material spoke louder than any signal, because even if we could not decode the message, the messenger itself was unnatural. With mounting evidence pointing to a non-natural origin, governments and agencies began to react, not publicly, but with unmistakable urgency. Encryption levels were elevated across observatory networks. Research teams were quietly reassigned. A sudden and unexplained increase in satellite recalibration was recorded across multiple continents. Nations with space programs initiated contingency discussions discreetly, behind closed doors. A leaked document from an international defense consortium suggested that 3i Atlas might not be a solitary visitor, but an advanced scout. Its unusual structure, stable rotation, and apparent ability to remain operational across interstellar distances indicated a design consistent with long-term observation probes. But if it was exploring, what was it searching for? And, more disturbingly still, what might come next? In universities, observatories, and military command centers, a chilling consensus began to form. We are no longer alone in the universe. And first contact may not be a conversation, but an assessment. As speculation reached its peak, a bold team at the SETI Institute decided to take the risk no one else would. They transmitted a directed radio pulse toward the projected position of 3i Atlas. The message contained universal mathematical constants, the periodic table, and basic visual representations of humanity. It was a cosmic handshake, a cautious hello. Days passed, then a week, no response. But just as the experiment was about to be archived as yet another unanswered call into the dark, one of the monitoring stations in Chile recorded something strange. A narrowband return pulse, off frequency, distorted, yet unmistakably synchronized to mirror the original message. It was not a reply in language, nor was it an echo. It was a return signal, with enough variation to indicate it was not simple passive reflection. It had been processed. It had been sent back. But what most shook the SETI team was not the signal itself. It was the timing. Because the response arrived exactly 72 hours after the transmission, down to the second. That meant something had not only received our message, it had calculated the delay and responded deliberately. After detection of the return signal, observatories around the world began registering technical anomalies. Webb's infrared instruments displayed erratic thermal mappings for the first time since launch, and Hubble's gyroscopic sensors recorded micro-fluctuations despite stable orientation. Ground-based telescopes encountered what were initially considered software malfunctions, misaligned star maps, unexplained pixel distortions, and data streams freezing precisely when focused on 3i Atlas. But these failures did not occur randomly. They happened within synchronized windows as if coordinated, as if someone, or something, did not want us looking too closely. A theory emerged from a confidential strategic group within the European Space Agency. The object was not merely emitting signals, it was interfering, selectively blocking our observations. The implications were staggering. A passive visitor does not conceal its identity. An explorer does. If the object was actively managing what we could see and when we could see it, then it was not we who were observing it. We were being allowed to observe. And then, silence. Within days of the signal event and the technical failures, Webb updates were delayed, restricted, and ultimately redirected. Public records became inaccessible. The European Space Agency issued a vague statement about instrument recalibration. NASA simply stopped commenting. Even respected journals that had been closely covering 3I Atlas began withdrawing reports or publishing neutral summaries stripped of detail. The astrophysics community fractured. Some believed the agencies were validating the discovery before making it public. Others believed something far darker, that the truth had already been confirmed and was now being contained. The few remaining independent observatories began releasing raw data streams to the public, but these were quickly drowned in an avalanche of disinformation and speculation. What had once been a global scientific mystery had become a strategic asset. And history has shown us what happens when governments classify a discovery. The truth dies in silence. In a final effort to understand what they were witnessing, a coalition of astronomers and mathematicians turned to pattern recognition and probability theory. They were no longer searching for communication, they were searching for proof of intent. And that was when they uncovered the most terrifying pattern of all. The object's trajectory through the solar system, though seemingly natural, traced a Fibonacci arc when plotted against planetary positions. An ancient spiral of proportional beauty found throughout nature and, coincidentally, in many Earth-based communication protocols. Furthermore, the timing of its course corrections, light flares, and even the return signal correlated with sequences of prime numbers. The odds of that occurring naturally? Astronomically low. These patterns were chosen. That meant 3I Atlas was not merely passing through the solar system, it was navigating with mathematical precision, as if following a map or a schedule. Some theorists were now whispering the unthinkable. This may not be just an interstellar probe. It may be an interstellar message, not made of sound or symbols, but of behavior, and we may have just decoded the first word. As the dust of confusion begins to settle, one truth remains impossible to ignore. 3I Atlas was never just a rock. From the unnatural light it emitted to the signal that returned, from the rare materials to the calculated trajectory shift, every piece of this puzzle points to a single, uncomfortable conclusion. We have not been alone for a very long time, and perhaps we were never meant to know. The James Webb Space Telescope, built to observe the birth of galaxies, may have captured something designed to look back, something ancient, deliberate, and watchful, not from the safety of a distant star system, but from the threshold of our own celestial neighborhood. And yet, silence prevails. The agencies refuse to speak. The data is withheld. The world, it seems, has been deemed unprepared. But we saw the light. We tracked the trajectory. And now we ask the question that terrifies even the most rational minds. What happens next? Was 3I Atlas merely passing through, cataloging our small world before continuing its journey? Or was it only the first of many? A scout preparing the way for something greater, something waiting for a signal to advance? In the end, perhaps it does not matter whether 3I Atlas was a machine, a message, or something entirely different. What matters is that it came, it saw, and it responded. And now, somewhere in the cold and endless void, something may be turning its attention toward the blue planet that blinked first. The countdown, perhaps, has already begun. And the universe once again reminds us, We are not the center. We are the observed.